We're going to have a reset right now. Here we go. Hi, friends. My name's host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Fence People. And tonight I'm here to teach everybody how to be nice. You see, I know it's not always easy to be nice. I recognize the fact that sometimes you just want to make videos yelling at other people because of their wrongness. And instead of that, you should try to be nice. I also know that certain kind of comments piss me off, Well, it's a natural follow-up to how to make people mad. Or making people mad, or whatever it's called. I am so nice. I'm as nice as an iceberg that instead of having ice is made out of nice. Yes, I was. Thank you for confirming that for me, Hembone. Of course they do. I mean, I would not expect, probably, I get the fact that I mean, it's always been the case that I've elicited some strong negative reaction, in life in general. It's always been the case that there have been people that, even when I was a kid, just seemed to absolutely hate me before I even did or said anything to them at all. Just like right off the bat, they just seemed to despise me. And it's like, I have various explanations for it, I guess, but it's like, I don't know. The thing is, of course, the shit talking about me, it doesn't really bother me because it's, the good news is everything's out here in the open and the real arguments are there and people can evaluate them on their own. And the other issue, though, is, of course, I was thinking about this earlier. It's like, what percentage of people who disagree with me actually disagree with me? In other words, most people who disagree with me are really just trying to take me down a notch. They don't like me. They don't like my comfort level. They don't like my confidence or whatever. It makes them feel threatened, maybe. I don't know. It's been part of my life since very early on. There's a certain percentage of people in the world who just immediately cannot stand me. And I probably elicit stronger negative response than any other person in the community, except C.S. Joseph. And the reason C.S. Joseph elicits so much negative response is because his FE's worse than mine, basically. It seems primarily an FE thing that even though I try to be as sort of as accountable and open to critique as I can, when it's what people can't stand most of all, what tends to drive people just absolutely into the despise Eric camp, is any claim of mine that says I'm exclusively right about cognitive functions and I fixed cognitive functions and so forth. For people who hate me, generally speaking, I think that makes them just go batshit crazy. It's like, oh my God, how could you dare possibly say that, Eric? Well, I'm saying it because that's my position on it, and I think it's well substantiated, I'm surprised by it too. I wouldn't have anticipated that I'd ever have any meaningful contribution to any ideational stuff, really. Consistently, as I've gotten older, I've been more and more surprised by how little, by how so few people understand. No, there's no argument. I came into this live stream out of reading comments, somebody put one of the comments I recently read as I was going through the recent comments was somebody said, I actually worked in a drug treatment center and you need help. It's like, okay. That person obviously doesn't care about me at all, is not concerned for my well-being, is not making any kind of an honest diagnosis of my state of affairs, is just trying to be spiteful in some fashion because they disagree with what I say in the video, Interestingly, the video is one in which I'm taking to task and strongly critiquing this white nationalist. So, well, I mean, Sky Gear, the thing is, they don't want me to be nice. I'm not saying that they're correct at all or that they want me to be nice. I'm saying when I make claims like that, they tend to set them off more than other kinds of claims. So the people who get so angry, they tend to not be capable of dealing with the really precise TI claims. So they want to try to tackle the FE claims. But those aren't really claims. Those are me pointing out, this is my, in other words, if you want to defeat my purported FE claim, you actually need to defeat my TI claims. But they want to skip the TI claims and go straight after the overarching sort of depiction of it that I make as fundamentally arrogant, deluded, self-important, non-self-deprecating, and then I think in implicitly in the people who really can't stand me is also something in them makes it that for them to acknowledge the value of things that are valuable about me causes them to, it does some sort of harm to their self-concept, either their self-esteem or their understanding of reality or who they are in reality or something like that, Sky you. Thanks, appreciate that. It's like that's why people really shouldn't dislike me so much, because I mean, I'm sitting right here like everybody else, and Skygear reminds me all the time of just how arrogant I should be. I was referring to the title of the stream. To be honest, I'm not really listening to you. We already know people dislike you in the incorrect way. Like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like when you're in this environment like I am, and you get slammed a lot. You learn to fight back, of course. I mean, are there other people, other live streamers like me who have such persistent spite monkeys? One of the issues that I have about it and why I continue to want to talk about it is because I'm SI, I have trouble understanding, like, or I guess what I should say is I want to have greater clarity as to whether this is something that happens to everybody, if it's the same for everybody, if it's more for me, if it's less for me, or whatever, so that I guess I could sort of contextualize it better. David Sanderson really wanted to associate a Discord server with TWFP. And I said, yeah, okay. And then I realized, oh, it's one of those toxic fucking, it's the thugs in the bars around the Adventurers Guild who can't get into the Adventurers Guild, All public figures get weird hate followings. Well, yeah, I guess that may be the case. I feel kind of relieved because I think I've taken the ultimately only good approach to the matter, which is because I've always been so fully transparent, it's almost impossible to get me. Like, you get people because people are vulnerable to be gotten in certain ways, right? Like, they're hiding something, or they feel a need to not be challenged in certain areas because they don't know the responses, or they get beaten argumentationally, or whatever, but it's like the spite monkeys around here, they never make any progress. They don't have anything to work with. In other words, it's like it's to some extent that's probably why, I mean, I guess they get a lot of attention around here. I don't think they get more attention than is proportionate for their amount of presence. So we can conclude that I get weird hate followings. Is that the correct answer? Yeah, that's why they rely on petty tactics. But it's like it's interesting to me in a different way if it is in fact the case that everybody has this. It's just different kinds of people hate different kinds of people, versus mine are I'm particularly prone to it, in which case I'd be like, okay, so what is it about what I'm doing that makes me particularly prone to being hated? Because I'm trying so hard to be fair and honest. So it's like, why would that elicit so much hatred? But if in fact it's just sort of a universal thing, as soon as they make a public figure, they gather hate, then it seems like the mechanism is a lot simpler to explain. It's just feelings of inadequacy getting getting denied by the individual and therefore manifesting as, or basically projection via spite. I mean, the thing is, unlike a lot of public figures who might get hate campaigns at them, I afford everybody the opportunity to be a human being, even those who come in trying to hate me. It's like, if I can change your approach to being like, oh, this is two human beings talking, then I'll feel like I've accomplished something. I'm not unapproachable. I'm not unreasonable. I'm not unwilling to be held to account when appropriate. So it's like, let's say you're mad at Frank James. You're never going to get Frank James to respond to you directly, because even if you go into his live, if he has a live stream and you go into it and you put a live chat or something, the chances that he's going to see it and read it are, especially if it's negative. But around here, I give everybody an honest opportunity to come in here and take up their business with me, and I respond on point. I don't evade the questions. I don't pretend to ask a different question. I answer them. I do what, I afford them all the basic decency of being human beings, that their words mean what they say. And then it's my job to answer if asked questions, just like it's everyone's job to answer when asked questions. When I was going to sleep earlier today, taking a nap, I was having this whole violent fantasy before I fell asleep. You know what my violent fantasy was? Somebody was not answering my questions and I'd break one of their toes. I hate it when people don't answer my questions. I hate it like nothing else in the world. Well, sometimes you have little violent fantasies if you're in a pissy mood. It's fine. I would never act on any such thing. I don't feel like bad. Even when I'm imagining things, I wish I could just break that person's toe or whatever. So they have to answer my fucking question and stop being so avoidant. It's not even about anybody in specific, right? It's just like I imagine some random person who's guilty of great wrongdoing and yet nevertheless refusing to answer my questions. A hammer. It's a hammer. Jesus is Lord. Yeah, I don't want to have to. That sounds like it's too SI questionable for me to do that. Smash, that's fine. Now you answer my questions. Since you don't want to answer my questions, now you have a broken toe. Now you get to either be honest and answer all my questions or have more broken toes. Okay, I answer your questions. Now, was that so hard? And here's the thing, this is why it drives me crazy. When I'm asking people questions and they're avoiding giving me straight answers, it's like the very best thing you could possibly do, no matter what you think about the situation, is to just give me straight answers to my questions. Because you can't anticipate why I'm asking them. You can't anticipate what I'm going to do with your answers. You can't anticipate whether or not the answer you're giving is going to serve the purpose that I'm going to use it for. So you can't possibly game that with me. It's always a mistake to give a dishonest answer because you're just giving me ammunition, no matter how carefully couched you think the dishonesty is. No, they don't really scream for pain. Well, a little bit they do, but it's just sort of, it's more conceptual than it is visualized. Like, I sort of picture myself the satisfaction of smashing their toe, but I don't really picture them screaming, I guess. I guess I don't really find that part of it very satisfying, probably. Just the smashing part, not the pain and suffering part, really. So, I don't know. See, in the story but listen, in the story that I was telling in my head as I was going to sleep, because, I have my pretend stories that I tell when I go to sleep, which I've talked to you about before. I have my various pretend lands that I go to where I have superpowers and stuff. Yeah, I'm 49. Yeah, fuck off. I mean, I don't know. It's just how I've always been. I thought at some point, I remember thinking when I was young that this pretending thing I did before going to bed was sure to wear off when I grew up. It never did. That's the only way I can go to sleep is go to one of my various pretend places and pretend myself through the story that is continuing. And I go back to various parts and I sort of restructure them. In this instance, like the main guy who's the bad guy who I come upon and stop in the middle of his wrongdoing, which is he's like whipping a peasant for not obeying his arbitrary instructions. I scold him about and then somebody's making the claim, well, he also did this. I said, well, did you do that? And he's like, tries to avoid my question. He neither says, I'm not answering you, nor does he tell me the actual answer. He tries to frame walk me. And I like the idea that of all the things that's happened in this story so far, this really makes me feel satisfied that he gets to understand what's really important. It's bad that you were whipping that guy. It's especially bad that you were whipping that guy because he was trying to prevent you from raping his wife, which you haven't raped yet because that'd be too depressing, right? Those things are terrible. But you just committed a real crime. You tried to avoid answering my question and thought I wasn't going to notice it. Please hand me the hammer. That's the part of the story I really enjoy, is that the whipping the guy caused me to intervene, and hearing the bits of the story I hear caused me to be, sort of dispassionately mad. But the real punishable offense here is him, telling me he's not going to answer the question would be fine. Answering the question would be fine. Trying to fool me with a non-answer is not okay. And that's why it's hammer time. That's when I put on those big parachute pants, those big pants that go out like this at MC Hammer wears, and it's hammer time. So that was my pretend story this afternoon, and you can see what gives me the most satisfaction in life is it's pretty meta, right? It's not just evoking justice on somebody, but evoking justice on somebody for what's clearly not justified, what's clearly a weaker justification than the real justifications I have, because that makes my point. I have a lot of magical powers, of course. I'm pretty OP in this story, so I can sort of not worry about having to fight a lot. I can simply arbitrate how people ought to be and hold them accountable with my own swift and righteous justice. It's like a population of people also that's kind of middle ages-y in their level of development. So one of the things that I get out of this story that I tell is that because they don't really have any existing clear framework about governance, besides the most powerful guy is always the Lord and bosses us around, that I get to introduce them to all of these things conceptually and train like apprentices to understand basically how and why things are as they are and should be, and what represents, the acceptable way to use communication to justify things, and then have conversations with them about whether or not we should kill all those people. Because yes, we're justified, but ought we take a less bloody approach, even though they've conveniently done all the things in the story they need to fully justify our retributive shock and awe. We end up erring on the side of decency, like instead of killing them, we take away all of their magic powers and weapons and send them back all useless to the original place and say, look, it's the last time we're doing this. Next time you send an army against me, I'm killing them all, okay? Because I already have more justification than I know to do. I could totally launch an attack on your city right now, and you wouldn't be able to complain about it because that's how much justification you've given me. So don't attack me again. And then sometimes they the title of this stream pisses me off. I really like the last live stream title though. This one seemed to follow naturally from the last. Yeah, wannabe debate lords are. I mean, it's so ridiculous because, of course, none of those people have ever actually debated in competition debate, right? Legends Fall says his violent fantasies are way more violent than mine. Well, I like to I really in my fantasy too, I think about how that broken toe is going to play out over time for the person whose toe I broke. So I go, yeah, it's going to be a pain in the ass for weeks and weeks and weeks, if not longer than that, months probably, most of the year. If I smash it good with a hammer, I may have to have it amputated even. This is a rather substantial punishment. So I take satisfaction in him limping around because he's been a douchebag for too long and needs to get his due justice. But I don't just think about the harm I'm doing in my fantasies as it plays out in the immediate short term. Rather, I consider, like, for example, I'm having ongoing conversations in my fantasy about whether or not, when we take away the magic of the enemy guys, when we like, they come in and they're like, okay, I'm a super strong magic guy for the enemy, and I cut them off. Like I have a way of cutting off all their magic. Should it be a time release so that eventually they get their magic back, or is it unfair to cut off their magic for their whole life? And if it is a time release, should we tell them their sentence, or should we make part of the punishment not telling them how long it's going to be till they get their magic back? And also, should we tell them that in fact they will get it back at all, or should that just naturally surprise them? If we don't tell them they're going to get it back at all, what about the ones who might commit suicide before they get it back? Should we feel responsible for that then? After all, we were already justified in killing them when we took a lighter course in the first place. You see, these are no, the villains are very evil, but I'm not. So I try to reform them rather than killing them. I try to. Well, I like it when the villains continue to ignore my very fair and ample warnings, and then finally I go, all right, and then it's slaughter time. I really like to be given lots and lots and lots of good justifications. Really put in a position where I can no longer not use my OPery to destroy you, because I've tried my very best to reason with you and no, I don't see my villains as ESFPs, because I don't really see their justifications for things much in my stories. Like, I see them sort of there's little scenes of them going, what? We've not heard from anything from Squad A or Squad B? They couldn't have all just disappeared. Little scenes like that, But I don't really do the part of the story that explains their reasoning. I just assume that they're power-hungry barbarians, basically, that haven't been educated by me in the ways of justice and truth. Oliver Linehan, you are such a noob. OP means overpowerful. Okay? Don't you play video games? Don't you watch anime? God. Can we all taunt Oliver Linehan for not knowing what OP was? I'm glad that Winston's mom reminded me of something. I wanted to take a moment. I have to read a few words from our sponsor. Let me get the paper they sent me. Next time you're having an outing or picnic, don't have ketchup one way. Don't have ketchup two ways. Try three-way ketchup. The only ketchup that's for ketchuping, dipping, and saucing. Three-way ketchup is a revolution in how you'll ketchup things from now on. Try it today. Okay, I hope they're satisfied with that. They paid me to do that, but they said they could only pay me in ketchup. I said, well, do you have any one-way ketchup? They said, no. Do you have any two-way ketchup? They said, no. I said, fine. Pay me in three-way ketchup. But I'm going to need like 10 gallons of it at least. That seems fair. We compromised. I accepted 8.5 gallons of three-way ketchup in lieu of payment. Seamus the drunk. If I were to jump out of my window right now, I'd just land on the ground right there. And then I just walk back in here. Only to discover that somehow didn't satisfy you. Well, I jumped out the window. Said, no, it's supposed to be high up. High up. Only jump out of low windows, everybody. Good advice. Don't jump out of high windows. Gosh, don't you like it when you argue with someone and they start arguing with basic bitch quotes? One of the favorite things I've seen on the internet lately is definitely that ESTP chick, or whatever type she is, who made that little video that said, okay, I get a lot of negative comments here on my thing, and I'm pretty used to it and everything, but all right, if you're going to write a negative comment, don't do this. Don't write, my intuition was right. There's something off about you. I thought, oh my God, thank you, lady, for doing that. Hi, Flow State. Hi, Taylor. How you doing? How you doing? So what's funny about this whole Discord thing that Hambone was bringing up is Hambone's like, it's mostly it's half garbage analysis and half shit talking of me, right? A Discord server, and he said something along the lines of, "You'd be surprised who you'll find they're doing that," which is, of course, what would you call that? An interesting thing to note, but actually, I probably wouldn't be that surprised. Well, if you said Rachel was there doing it, I'd be surprised for sure. That would shock me. But it's 822, Seamus. 822. I mean, who else would surprise me? Probably Winston's mom. If Winston's mom or Rachel were there, it would both surprise me and I'd want to know. But other than that, I guess it would surprise me if Oliver Linehan were there talking shit. It would surprise me if Hambone were, since they're reporting on it. But I don't know who else would surprise me. Yeah, I guess the only people I'd be hurt to discover would be probably Winston's mom and Rachel, and the only one who would be a problem if I discovered it's Rachel. If Rachel were secretly talking shit about me someplace else, I'd be stunned, but it would definitely be a problem. You know. I mean, the thing is, people don't understand in general what it means when I say that I trust people. It's or the way or how my trusting people goes. I generally don't think that someone's intellectual yeah, well, that's just a nightly thing for her. She texts us a different person every night to say that. The thing is, we're good. I'm glad she's having shots downtown with some trans person. Is that where she went? See, she told me she was going downtown because she needed to check on something. I didn't ask her to specify. So yeah, I mean that's my take on it. I don't expect a lot of loyalty from anybody, except for my girlfriend. Really, you know. I might be surprised by some of the people, but I also recognize that that we yeah. Hey sweetie, I gotta go downtown. Really? This time of night? Yeah. Why? I gotta check on something. Okay. What do you gotta check on? You know, there's a matter that's unchecked that needs that resolved. Oh, okay. Might be sewer gators, might be, you know, downtown dysfunction disorder. Oh, this isn't going to be a super long stream or anything. I'm pretty tired. I need to go to sleep. I want to meet with Cameron tomorrow, work on this project we're working on with Rachel and me. And yeah, I know Winston's mom. That's why I included, it's like I realized it's not exactly true that I'd only be hurt if Rachel were doing that. Because, like, I totally trust you. And, like, that would be shocking to me. I guess I don't really afford functional trust to people very much, which is to say, people think I'm trusting / quote unquote naive, but I'm not trusting people with anything. You see what I'm saying? But I guess when I start to think of you as more like a real life friend and somebody who, Winston's mom and I are both older than most people here. There's a old age can cut two ways, right? As you get older, there are a subset of people who get crotchety, stuck in their ways, and just ever more fussy about things. I mean, here's the problem you got, Seamus. Her phone's right here. She's in there. And also, she's got it on Do Not Disturb. Calls and notifications will be silenced while your iPhone is locked until tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I'm pretty confident that's not the case. And note, I don't have anything to do with it. She leaves it out here because, I don't know, she just left it out here. She's got two phones, yeah. She did not have the TE for two phones. She just doesn't have the TE for it. She barely has the TE for one phone. And only some of the time. What is the age spread of your subs? It's mostly like, I guess, 20 somethings. I could look. I haven't really looked in a while. It's super nice actually to feel as confident as I do about my relationship and Rachel's devotion to me. I really feel as though like, I guess, as Winston's mom has said before, something like, I'm her lobster. Disgrace. She doesn't put sugar in her coffee. Look, whatever you could possibly say, Seamus, couldn't be nearly as offensive as what what's his name said when he came in last time, which turned out to be totally a misinterpretation, but hilariously necessary misinterpretation, like the kind of misinterpretation you can't believe until you realize what just happened. Like, this guy came in and he said something like, Rachel's looking good today. and then Winston's mom, prior to him, like, her message was above his. Her message said, asked him about his dog, and he responded to that by saying, I'm getting her in 10 days. I can't wait. I'm like counting the days. I can't wait for her. And then it was a picture of a cat, right? So naturally, it seems clear that this person was saying, Rachel, looking good. I'm getting you in 10 days. Can't wait. Can't wait to get that pussy, And it was totally a miss. It was like Maxie Kemp first said something about Rachel and then answered Winston's mom's question. But instead of using an icon of a dog, used an icon of a cat, which made this succession of three things sound indisputably like he was saying, Rachel's looking good today. I'm glad I'm getting her in 10 days. I can't wait for that pussy. I'm just like, what? Only to realize, no, that's not what happened. Even though that's what it said, right? It was a very odd and interesting thing. Odd and interesting. I feel better now than I did before I decided to title this stream How to Be Nice. Because I'm sitting here being mad before I started the stream. Mad about what? Oh, I guess probably Jeffrey's school has a lot to do with it. Mad and sad about that. I mean, when I went to school, it was like I would have been afforded my own niche. I was afforded my own niche as a thinker. It's like I wasn't given bad grades because my papers were too adversarial or something like that, because they didn't echo the acceptable political stance or something. Yeah, well, we had a big blow up of sorts tonight because after Jeffrey and I had worked on the paper, it was sort of all right, here's how you can both do it right and still, not do it right. In other words, since you've sabotaged doing it correctly, which is writing the paper I suggested in the first place by asking the teacher permission to write that paper. Let's do this one here. This meets what he told you, and you still get to do something real. So we worked on that for a while. He comes back to me tonight and says, well, here I've got this paper with exactly the paper I said. That's not what we're going to do for sure. If you're going to do that topic, then you need to argue from the other side. We're not going to lie and right. She wants the grade, not the learning. Of course, yeah, but it's like she wants both. She wants her cake and eat it too. She keeps saying, yeah, but can you help him to get an A and do it right or whatever? Well, no. She's taking away every opportunity she has to exert leverage on the grounds that if she shows she's willing to roll over and bare her throat all the time, that she'll just get, passed along to graduation with a 4.0 so that instrumental thing can lead to the Ivy League college, which is in itself another instrumental thing that's going to finally allow them to get to their goal, which is undefined. You already got one. You got to be in English first semester. And, naturally, mom is all aflutter about it. It's like, in my mind, you play to win. In a class like that, I'd much rather get an F than a B. Because at least the F is honest. The teacher's saying, I'm failing you because I don't like you. And B is dishonest. It's saying, you were almost good enough. No, I was too good. Don't lie. Your own weakness. There's a lot of weak people want to take their own weakness out on strong people. TFWB is considered baddish. And in Bulgaria, we're like, you're a smart dude if you get them consistently. What's TFWB? That feeling when, oh. Why do parents get so involved in their kids' schoolwork? Well, because, tiger parents are tiger parents. And they like to control their kids' school and time because they think of their kid as, you've got one shot to prepare your kid with all the tools they need to move forward in life. If you're an interface type like an ESTJ, you don't understand the importance of the identity quality, namely what's never being What's never being factored in by Jeffrey's mom really is that she's trying to make Jeffrey, who is a frog, be less of a frog and more of a rabbit, or less of a frog and more of a hen, or whatever. I try to explain to her, Jeffrey's job in life is to attack. When he's asked to write a paper in school, he will always have no problem if it's clear what he's supposed to attack. And he will always have a problem if it's not. When he knows what he's supposed to attack, the paper writes itself. He'll always have plenty of arguments as to why it's wrong. If he's precluded from attacking anything, he won't know what to do. After all, what is there to do? You're purposefully not saying anything. You're not negating anything. You're not affirming anything. It's easier for him to negate, so he should always attack. Always attacking in a scholastic sense doesn't mean use bad words or blah, 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 but it does mean making clear, bold claims in fancy talk that makes it acceptably scholastic. And once you meet that burden, in other words, you address the thing seriously in scholastic language and with a robust scholastic metric that says this has to pass MEAS scrutiny. If you meet those standards, then it counts as good regardless of whether you like what it says, I mean, he's put in a really hard place. Jeffrey's placed into a really difficult position here. Jeffrey's got shit going on that he would like to pay attention to. It's not school. He's got this mom who's insisting he does well in school. He's trying to dance the way the mom is saying because FE and no FI and whatever. And okay, well, look, I just want to get, I don't care, Eric. I just want to just bullshit. Help me make bullshit sandwiches. Well, and I've made him help. I've helped him make a couple of them, but what happened this time is there was it's like I really felt that there was an active attempt to undermine ways that we could do it correctly and successfully pull that off. And that was undermined by the mom going and actually seeking permission when it's a terrible thing to do. And when it ignores everything I tell her. And so today, when I discovered that the totally legit work that we had done last time, which is to say, we'd worked out a compromise, basically, where I said, okay, look, we can write this paper about this one of the handouts that he gives you. That he calls them a case study. It's like basically bullet-pointed ideology testing or banality testing. It's like, say as little as possible, be safe with your rhetoric. And so I said, okay, well, we'll do this one about Buddhism and the internment camps, but instead of doing what he wants you to do, which is say how terrible it was that the Americans discriminated against the Buddhists in the internment camps, use this opportunity to make a real argument, which is we can compare the way that the Buddhists were treated in the American internment camps against the way, say, the Jews were treated in the Nazi internment camps, and see how clearly important it is that neither a I guess, spiritual frame, you would call it, religious frame or whatever, how neither that kind of frame nor a secular frame attain dominance in entirety. So in Nazi Germany, you have an example of a secular frame subsuming all the moral frames. You in Islam, you see the religious frame subsuming the secular frame. In Confucianism, you see the secular frame and religious frame basically being the same, as the religion is said to be these secular SIFE traditional things. It's a very strange one. The point is, people, there are two frames of reference that are at combat in various contexts. One of them is a religious frame, which says, I am here to address moral questions. The other, the secular one, says I'm here to address legal questions. And those two areas of claim are both the same basic fundamental area of claim, which is how do we attain justice? So it's hard to imagine a scenario in which the two frames are each afforded their due just place and that things work out well accordingly. Christianity and America are an example of some place where the secular frame and the religious frame each have their own domain. Christianity, in fact, specifies give Caesar his due. In other words, Christianity makes clear the secular and religious frames should be distinct, and that this subject matter was an excellent way for him to make a meaningful conversation, make a meaningful argument about the topic. It would be topical, it would be incisive, and it would be real, actual work and analysis rather than purposeful banality to avoid offending. Once again, he went back for permission, and once again, it was rejected. And so this time, it wasn't just the concept that was rejected; it was we had done quite a bit of work on it. So when he came back today with the first thing that I had already rejected is that is wicked. We're not doing that. We're not going to say that the big problem that we need to talk about between Hindus and Muslims in parts of India is that the Hindus are being Islamophobic. That's not the problem. For every instance of Hindu aggression against the Muslims, there are countless, myriad instances of Muslim aggression against the Hindus. There are, for example, Muslim policemen recently abducted a 13-year-old girl who was Hindu, forcibly converted her to Islam, married her, and the Muslim courts in the area upheld the marriage. Also, he changed her name like a pet. Now, if you've got Islamic law enforcement behaving as though it is legally appropriate for them to abduct teenage girls, forcibly marry them, change their name, force them to convert their religion, and then enjoy the legal protections of that marriage, that's an actual topic that needs to be discussed. The fact that the Hindus at some point freak out and burn down a mosque is the least of the relevant matters at hand. And I'm not going to help you pretend otherwise. And so when he came back today, having thrown all the work we did in the trash on the Buddhist thing, having wasted all the talking through the first topic, which is the best one, and he came back with the original wrong topic that insisted he do it wrong, and said to me, I want you to help me do it wrong. Basically, I want you to, but if I were going to have to do with this, Eric, how would I do it well? You would not do it. I mean, hey, look, Eric, I've already tried to get an A by blowing the teacher twice. I'm thinking about blowing him again. How can I do a better job of it? You are asking the wrong guy. I'm not going to. I mean, this is the thing, Winston's mom. Jeffrey already has all the research done before he ever got there, right? He's argued these things on a real level in debate. And this history teacher is saying, don't engage the topic meaningfully because that's scary. That might be controversial. Okay, well, we have to remember the human being here who's supposed to be the student, right? The student is trying to learn and engage shit, right? Informationally. And the teachers there are preventing him from doing so. They are denying him freedom of conscience, the ability to engage the topic in the way that he would like to intellectually. Now, that's fine if the way he wants to engage it intellectually is to avoid engaging it intellectually. Teacher could say, that's not engaging it intellectually. That's fine. But that's not what's happening here. Jeffrey is engaging it intellectually too much. And he's making the wrong point. The teacher doesn't like this point he's making. No, I'm not going to do that to my client. I'm not going to go over her head at all and talk to the school directly or anything like that. But I also made it clear tonight that they can't keep trying to have the cake and eat it too. They either need to listen to me or replace me. Of course, it's all compartmentalized for Mom and Jeffrey both, I think, because as soon as it was clear that, after I'd screamed, well, that he can go fuck himself, this fucking it was clear that there was no way I was going to help with this. She said, okay, well, we have an English assignment. Will you help with this one? So what's the English assignment? And it was a short story. And so I was like, yeah, I'll throw out some shit and we can talk about it. That's fine. So it's like, well, it's one thing to make bullshit sandwiches for English class because bullshit sandwiches for English class aren't framing things that matter in wrong ways. If the teacher wants you to engage with this book emotionally in some stupid ass way that's dumb, even if it does express some sort of vague, team politics, virtue signaling shit, it's not important. It's not about anything important. So I hate making bullshit sandwiches, but if I do it in that, I'm not really doing anything wrong because I'm not really saying anything, The point is, the problem with the bullshit sandwiches there is I'm forced to say nothing rather than anything that matters. The problem with the bullshit sandwiches on this religions paper is I've been asked to say something, to help him say something. And so bullshit that's something is much, 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 much more offensive than bullshit that's nothing. Pretending to say something in an essay because your teacher's dumb, and as long as you use some new politics code words that'll give you a good grade, is just the natural consequence of you understanding better. On the other hand, saying the lies they want you to say is a whole another ball of wax. I'm not going to help him do that. I'm not going to help anybody do that. And it's like, right, well, but if his goal is to do well in the class, shouldn't he just do what's asked? I mean, absolutely. If his goal is to get a good grade, he should do what's asked. And so that's what I tell his mom. I say, oh, well, if you don't want him to do good work, you just want him to get a good grade, then you don't need me. You just need to. He could do this bullshit sandwich. I demo a couple bullshit sandwiches for him, and once again, call back and say, I mean, again, guys, if you just want him to get an A, then you really don't need me. Jeffrey knows how to make bullshit sandwiches. But, and then they say, but she keeps changing the required bullshit recipe on us. We don't know what to do. And I say, well, now then you have to attack. She's not going to let you meet her criteria. She'll just continually shift the goalpost, and you'll always be falling a little short for new reasons. So you have no choice. As long as you continue to try to dance to her tune, you will continue to be controlled by her. And if you want to put an end to that, I can guarantee you that good outcomes will occur by following my approach, but it may be that good outcome goes through a period of seeming like a bad outcome. So what you want to do, ideally, is to push them to taking unjustifiable action. In other words, the thing that they are punishing you for totally withstands scrutiny. And then they're toast. But mom doesn't believe in that kind of action deliberation, friend, where you understand how your words are going to work on them and argumentationally, and what they're going to be left trying to defend or affirm afterwards, and whether or not it's going to work. She just won't trust that process. It will require too much trusting of me, whom she sees as an extremist of sorts, even though I'm not an extremist at all. I'm trying my best to explain to her that it continually falls on deaf ears, and that she counter values. Yeah, it's cowballing. And what they do is they have convinced everybody that they have high standards, because they assign a lot of work. They are fussy about how it's done, and it's hard to get into. And I don't know, it's got a reputation, right? So but it's not a good school. It's not a good school because, as the mom always complains, the teachers don't teach anything. What they do to attain this reputation of being a school of high standards, a good school, is they assign a lot of work, teach nothing, and the students have to scramble to figure out how to get it done properly, while concurrently preventing the students from independently learning. So the English teacher has a rule that, the student can't work with another English teacher or anything. Why? Well, that's FI. She thinks she owns these people to some extent. She thinks she's entitled to claims on their time that she's absolutely not entitled to. If she were to claim that even though she's not entitled to them, she's justified in making them in this instance, then she'd have to explain why this particular assignment is the best use of time per learning outcome ratio. She'd have to understand exactly what it is she's trying to teach first, which of course she doesn't. She never sat down and said, if I am successful in teaching these students this year, what's the assessment I'm going to give at the beginning, the criteria that I'm going to use to measure that assessment, and then how am I going to give the same assessment at the year, same criterion, and see the progress, and what am I going to use as a standard for good progress, slow progress, fast progress, whatever. Those kind of framework questions have to be answered if you're going to be successful as a teacher. If you go into teaching something without knowing what it is that the kids are trying to learn, that you're trying to get the kids to learn that they don't currently have, then you are guaranteed to fail. So think about English class. English class, the teachers go in there and they assign books and they assign papers and they do grammar assignments and whatever. There's only one thing that happens in a English class that anybody can explain why it happens, and that's teaching grammar. Teaching grammar happens in English class because there's a goal for the students to understand grammar, which is very concretely testable and objectively right or wrong, and which it's very easy to meaningfully measure the progress of both the students and the effectiveness of the teacher in teaching it. When you ask, what else are you teaching in English class that you clearly understand where you are now, where you're going to, how what you're doing gets you there, and how to measure whether it's been effective? And the answer is there's nothing. They come up with sets of words to explain what they're trying to teach with writing, but they're always stuck with the same problem. Either they're not talking about writing, they're talking about a formula of a very narrowly occurring kind of scholastic writing that reduces what ought to be an intellectual process into a TE process, or they are teaching writing from a debate perspective, a competition debate perspective, which is to say, you're not really teaching the kid to write at all. You're working together with them to put together debate cases that comprise some language that's the debaters, some language that's the authors you're quoting, and of the language that's the debaters, some of it is simply tags, some of it is jargon, some of it is actual argumentation, and that's very, very powerfully indicative of what's totally wrong about English class, right? Jeffrey has already become too good at writing for his teachers to tolerate receiving his assignments. Why? Because he keeps trying to say something meaningful, make an argument, not just lay out a plate of meats and cheeses that look appealing that aren't actually made out of meats and cheese, right? They're actually just plastic. And they're saying, no, you're doing this wrong. These are real meats and cheeses for the party. We just need them to look like they're meats and cheeses. Don't make real meats and cheeses. That's not a good idea. That's controversial. Karma's Pimp asks, Eric, what are you to me? Karma's Pimp, what am I to you? I am lover, friend, confidant, advisor, benefactor, soulmate, acquaintance, foe, nemesis, opponent, and also Siamese twin. All of those things and more, Karma's Pimp. All of those things. Well, sure, the teacher feels entitled to the F5. I mean, there's no TI justification for it. It's arbitrary. It's not like it's not like anything bad would happen if the student wrote a paper that critiqued the role of Islam instead of the role of Hindu. Nothing would happen. The teacher wouldn't have to freak out about it. And there's really no other reason to imagine that teacher preventing a student from learning. Right? And this is the thing. It's like I can't exactly all the way condemn the teachers because I genuinely believe they've not thought about education right at any point. Education should be dictated by the students. It should occur when the actual work they're doing requires them to learn something new to execute it properly. It should be real work, not practice work all the time. And it should be the educational course should be driven by the student's talents, interests, and individual being, not by other factors. You know, it's just how it is. Passing off political indoctrination as education, though, is absolutely fucking appalling. It's the most subversive, evil imaginable. Well, it's once again, it's FI subverting NI. It's not acceptable. That's how evil in the world occurs. You know? I'm pretty sure most schools in 1619 weren't very racist. I suspect few communities in America in 1619 were racially diverse. It was pretty much all Eskimos. Ooh, I mean Inuits. It's their pies that are Eskimos. And don't forget, everybody, the individuals formerly known as midgets, more recently known as little people, have requested that we refer to them henceforth as those darling little scamps. So please make the change. Please update your required language notebooks There's also been a couple more updates I want to alert everybody about. The word falling has been updated to choosing the ground. We don't want to open anybody up to teasing, taunting, or anything else like that. Okay, so please, everybody adjust. Going forward, nobody falls down. They choose the ground, okay? Other recent updates. The word cool has been deemed, when used to refer to people, as ontological violence against warm people. So generally it's not cool to use the word cool to mean cool anymore. Okay? Other recent changes to the language. Let's see. It's been so many. The word but has been, we've come to realize that it's a patriarchal means of exclusion. And so from now on, just only use and. Always be inclusive. I know it's going to take a little while for us all to get used to it. A couple of mistakes here and there to be expected, but please, people's feelings matter. Don't use but. That's the way to exclude people. Also, there's been a couple of changes in terms of political terms. The term conservative has been replaced henceforth with the term wicked, and the term progressive has henceforth been replaced by the term righteous. So when saying what your political position is, please adjust accordingly. So like Legends Fall, when he announces his political position from now on, he says, well, I'm wicked. And that way we force him to be honest about the evil of his wrongness. Because, of course, he often disagrees with things that I feel strongly about. From now on, leaf trimmer, you're going to need to agree that the Lord sent COVID as a message to Christians to be more open and less judgmental. By entitlement, no TI justification, and a declaration of TI justification as an example of the oppressive kinds of approaches that the oppressors use. Wow, oblivious to the fact that they're using the same mechanism themselves to make that point. It's appalling. It's that's when it's time to break toes with hammers. In my imagination only, of course, just like, okay, I'm going to break your toes until you get that FI out of you, That's the devil. It's preventing you from being fair. It's preventing you from being honest. It's turning you into an ideologue. It's making a good person do bad things. It's like those FI people, they're not bad people. They have the same basic fundamental understanding of the good as we do, which is they don't like suffering. They do like justice. They enjoy and prefer a life where they're largely unimpeded in going about their business, where they don't have to worry about whether or not they can go to a sporting event or whether or not they can go to the liquor store or wherever, It's like, by and large, everybody's on the same page. A good civil life is one in which people go about their business, not being subject to violence and not being subjected to crime and not having to worry about how they express themselves, right? There's no actual Right. But of course, if you were to actually get down to the nitty gritty, any use of language is an acknowledgement that you've decided to play TI. If you're going to be making arguments of any kind, there's no way to make arguments that's not involving logic. So your reasoning that we should dismiss it because is an acknowledgement that logic is what we're going to use. In other words, you're trying to justify your words, which you should. The problem you have is you don't like the fact that your justifications are weak, that my arguments destroy your justifications, that my justifications are strong and you have no answers for them. That doesn't mean that I'm being mean and debating you to be right because I don't want to be wrong. It actually means you're wrong and you're attached to your wrongness, and so you've not been able to look at it carefully. There are certain things in which, to be correct, you need to use introverted thinking and extroverted feeling and intuition, and not introverted feeling and introverted sensing and extroverted thinking. You know, there are times when you must use the map functions because the thing you're dealing with must be universally applicable. In other words, we're writing a map for everybody. So don't pretend your jibber jabberish shorthand version of a map is a version of a map. That's your little personal non-map that you're calling a map. It's ridiculous. What are we joking about? Who blowed who? Who blew who? Who's blowing whom? Who's blowing whom? Is a great name for like a celebrity gossip channel. Who's blowing whom? Hi, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Who's Blowing Whom. I'm blowing who? You? When? Do we have an appointment? Oh, I was talking about blowing Karma's pimp. But leaf trimmer, yeah, I will. I'll make a video on him pretty soon. Jesus Lord. I'm gonna go to bed relatively soon, and my plan is, because I have planned a lot of work for tomorrow. I got to meet with Cameron, and I need another good night's sleep. I slept most of the day, really, today, but I still need another good night's sleep to catch up. And look, what happens between Karma's pimp and me in my basement is between Karma's pimp and me in my basement. Okay? All right? I do keep some secrets. I guess my main secret is I really like to have sex with Karma. Naturally, I'm frequently in contact with her pimp. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that that's how I am. What I have hath been bloweth by whometh? I think it's Skygear doing the blowing now. It changes from time to time. Here's the thing. I want to go over again my central claim of the day, which is that California's COVID policies, or LA County, I keep correcting myself. LA County's COVID policies functionally say women hairdressers who wish to continue doing business must do so topless. If you find that offensive, then you too should oppose COVID regulations. Because, every time we drive by it on Barham going across the Forest Lawn route from 101 to 134. There it is, that big pink van, and it's parked clear as day, written on the side, topless hairdresser and a phone number. So I bet her business has been absolutely booming, as it seems like barbershops have been closed down all across Los Angeles County for the last year. Naturally, people still need to get haircuts. So, who's available to give you a haircut? Titties McGee. Titties McSnips. That's her name, as the topless hairdresser. She used to have just a bunch of horny dude clients. Since COVID, I bet, whole families come in. They call her. Hey, are you the topless hairdresser? Yeah. Can you come to our house and can you just do our whole family? I've got grandma, grandpa, got my youngest, Steven, he's 7. I've got my older boy, Mark, he's 14. I've got my husband, Dave, and me, I'm Margaret. And how much would that be? Well, it's going to be, since there's so many of you, I'll do it for $600. Well, that's a lot, but with these COVID times, right, that's what I'm thinking too. My point is going to be when we are leaping before we talk, and when we are leaping on justifications that don't universally validate, things like appeals to ignorance, which are always fallacious, then we create situations where California's required women to take off their shirt if they wanted to do business. They required them to show their titties if they want to do business. Well, that's appalling. Well, yeah, it's appalling. But there's not really that law. Well, no, that's my point is COVID's not really law. It's Wild West arbitrary decree that basically puts huge swaths of the population on house arrest indefinitely. So, yeah, that's one of the side effects. So own that. Say, I choose to save lives from COVID and force all the women hairdressers in California to do business half naked. Own it. Boba Fett. One of those two words you don't understand. I suspect it's hoax that you don't understand. But it could be COVID you don't understand. Every dark cloud has a silver lining. In this case, titties. Well, I mean, I do think it's important that we launch a huge campaign against accepting knowledge with heuristics. It's critically important that we evaluate and determine the correct answer, and not do so by looking at somebody's expertise, not do so by looking at something's longevity or history. Don't pull a Ray Bradbury and think you're going to save the world with Aristotle. No, it's going to have to be, in other words, we're going to have to side with the campaign against established knowledge and subvert it towards our own goal of correct process. In other words, correctness is not about the what is. It's not about the information. It's not about this piece of information is correct and that piece of information is correct. Correctness is always about the process. Are we doing the process of being correct correctly? Because statuses are always temporary. So it doesn't matter if we attain a temporary status that's temporarily correct. If we're doing the process wrong, we won't sustain correctness for very long. I mean, look, I'm not saying progressivism is trying to make a shitty thing happen. I don't believe progressivism is trying to do anything. It doesn't have a will. I think that individuals get attached to what they believe is a truth that finally they can totalize. Not understanding that the need to totalize the truth is fundamentally the problem. Yeah. Save the world with Aristotle. I had a male masseuse in Shanghai where massages are seen in general much more as sort of part of a health routine. He bent me a lot, like I really felt like and the whole time he was saying to me, relagus, because he didn't know how to say relax. No, he wasn't humping me up the butt. He was just massaging me. Shanghai's got shit tons of massage places, and they're almost all like legit. They're not happy ending places or anything like that because they don't view massage like that there. It's viewed as a different kind of beast. I went to one of the more pricey ones in the expat area, which was still cheap compared to America. It's like $35 or whatever for like an hour long thing. That at the end of you feel like, wow, I've really been like bent and turned and squeezed in every direction. But I think that was all the rest of the time I had lady masseuses, and by and large, I found them not quite strong enough to get, as this has always been the case, to get this loaf right here, which I hit with a hammer, Occasionally, there'll be a chick who can get it. I still prefer to get chick masseuses if I go to get a massage. But that guy in Shanghai, he was probably that was probably the most thorough massage I've ever gotten. Like, I felt a little beat up afterwards, Like, it would be cool if Rachel could massage me, but she's just not strong enough. It's like my massage parts need her to be a lot stronger than she is. It's like the best we can hope for is she put her elbow down and lean into it as hard as she can, and she'll maybe get something like what I need right there. This is a very tough part of my body. Did I stick out like a sore thumb in Shanghai? Well, I was definitely like one of the tallest people in the whole city. It is an expat heavy part of China, but expats are still a huge minority. And occasionally I'd see another tall expat. But the thing is, the reason for that is I could see them from way the fuck over there, right? Because everybody else is full head and shoulders shorter than you. You know, like they here at tallest. And one of the more surreal experiences I had was sort of, popping out of my intuitive moment and in the Shanghai train station and realizing how different my perspective was from everybody else. So there's massive throngs of people in the Shanghai train station, and they're all going into these windows here that finally sort of may end up being lines, right? Well, there's also just general throngs of people all around the lines going this way and that way. And I had a moment where I sort of put myself in the shoes of one of the people down there who couldn't see anything. Who all they saw was the backs of other people. Whereas meanwhile, I'm surveying the whole freaking train station perfectly fine, just standing there seeing everything I want to see. I can see what's going on over there. I can see what's going on that window, that window, that one, what the line is like. There's nothing blocking my vision at all because I'm that much taller than everybody else. And most of the time I don't notice it because it's pretty kind of that way even in the United States. I'm taller than most people. But that moment in the train station where there's shit tons and shit tons and shit tons of people there, and they are all having the same experience, which is what in front of their eyes is the back of someone's head or the back of someone's back or the back of the head in front of that person because they're all around this, They're all having completely different experiences perceptually in the moment than I'm having right now, which is, for me, the space is visually uncluttered. It's just I can see where I'm going or what I want to do, no problem. I just go, okay, I'm going over there. And for them, it's the exact opposite. There's no field of vision at all. And like I'm the only one there who has this, and there's all these other people around who don't have it. It's a weird feeling, It's like a superpower. Hey, there's shit tons of people here. As far as I can tell, I'm the only one who can see what's going on. Well, I did realize that there was a bit of a phenomenon in China, which surprised me, which was it's a sort of an imperialist thing going on. Like, as a tall white man, I can just sort of walk places acting as though I belong there, and everyone just goes, well, I guess he's back here. I guess he's over here now, where we didn't think he was supposed to be, but I guess he is. Well, I need to look at that. Okay. Then I go look at the thing. Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. And, some Chinese person goes, oh, can we go in there? And the guy goes, no, 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 no. You just let me in here. Probably it's like they didn't want to try to explain to me I couldn't. It's like too much Chinese English problems. Two white guys in China. Did it eat okay over there? Well, yes, because I was in the part of Shanghai that was a very expat-y part of Shanghai, at the corner of Hongqiaolu, Shuichenglu, which is near the Carrefour, which is a French supermarket. Next to the Carrefour, there's a McDonald's. Across the street from the Carrefour, there's a Subway. And there's also a Baskin Robbins, interestingly, there. I was always a little curious about the meat in the Subway sandwiches, but they were good. They tasted fine, I just ate them. I also, so I'd buy things from the Carrefour because the Carrefour had Western food there. And it was more expensive than Chinese food, but you could get some like American brands there at the Carrefour. Carrefour is a strange supermarket because it has a lot of floors. One floor is supermarket, one floor is electronics, one floor is like clothes, and one floor is like beds and draperies and shower curtains and stuff like that. But I was able to eat mostly regular food. What I bought in China that was Chinese made all the time was cake. Seemed like on every corner, they have a cake store where you go in and they've got slices of, all these different kinds of fancy cakes. And it's super fancy looking cake slice. And it's always like, it was when I was there anyway. It was like $1 for, the fanciest one. So I go, okay, well, let me have one of those, and one of those, and one of those, and one of those. Here's $4. And I get home and I just eat a bunch of cake. And it was delicious. There's one thing you should definitely feel free to eat when in Shanghai. You go to any of those fancy little bakery things, and Winston's mom put the skit right there. I'll go look at it. Okay, I'll go look at it right now. You should definitely feel comfortable eating the cakes. Cakes are delicious. Delicious. Yeah, fine. Here. Even when I went out to eat in Shanghai, I tended to eat at expat restaurants. So there was particularly this bar that was, I guess you'd say, an Australian bar and grill kind of a place. It had bar food. I didn't drink, but my AA group, we weren't drinking there, but my AA group went there for dinner on occasion after group because it had Western food, had hamburgers, like bar food. I ate a lot more local food when I was in Taiwan. In Taipei, I mostly ate Taiwanese food, which is good and safe. Because there's things about, like in China, some of the street food places, they use what's called ground oil, which is just basically any kind of oil that is like somebody else's old oil they spilled out on the ground and then they collected the oil. So I want to make sure I'm not eating something fried in ground oil. You can't drink the water over there. It's got heavy metals in it. It's very important to drink bottled water. Some, like probably ENTP. And this story very much dissuaded me from trying it. Was there for like 6 months. I was like, this water's fine. And he came back and had massive organ problems. So I didn't drink the water. The tap water, I only drank water they bottled. However, I did cook things in water. So it's like I usually cook things in bottled water. Sometimes I cook things in tap water. As to whether or not you could cook things in the tap water, that's where the jury was out. Let me put this link. I'm going to mute this for a second and watch this thing. Yeah, pretty much. That's how it is. Okay, I'm going to bed. It's 12:45. It's later than I thought. It's later than tomorrow night, which is pretty late. All right, good night, everybody. Thanks for being here.